So, Catherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you all.
One of the best things about having a podcast is I get to choose who comes onto the podcast and I get to pick the topics. So, I know sleep is just such a pain point for many midlife women. So, I'm very, very excited to have this chat today. But how did you get into sleep medicine?
I've been inherently interested in sleep since I was in college. So, in college, I started doing my individual and group projects on sleep, and then it just went from there. Was a research assistant in a sleep lab before becoming a doctor, and my whole working adult life has been focused on sleep health.
So, with sleep medicine, I know that you are a naturopathic doctor, so you do really work on it from a lifestyle perspective. What do you see are some of the things that most women are getting wrong when it comes to sleep?
Well, I think one thing that people don't really realize is how very important getting light during the day is. And, in our current modern built lifestyle, we're getting really just a fraction of the light that humans historically have gotten throughout human history. And making sure to get bright light, particularly in the morning, really helps your circadian rhythm be stronger and more robust. And we need that help as we get older. Our circadian rhythm just kind of gets muted, and we need to purposely make it stronger. So we're widely awake during the day and deeply asleep at night.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I walk my dog in the morning. So I'm getting out there, getting morning sunlight. But because on the start of my walk, the sun is quite low and the sun is directly coming into my eyes, I wear sunglasses. So, what's your thoughts on sunglasses with early morning sun?
I think if you can avoid the sunglasses, it'll be more effective for you. When we first wake up, we have a little bit of melatonin still in our system from that nocturnal pulse. And strongly suppressing that melatonin in the morning actually helps our nocturnal melatonin increase and move a little bit earlier, which is going to help us fall asleep more easily at night. So, if you can go without the sunglasses, that would be ideal.
I guess I can always leave an hour earlier or an hour later just so the sun's not at that point where I need sunglasses. So I can definitely work around that. So talking about light in the morning, what about light in the evening? What do we do at the other end of our day?
Well, I think, Dr. Jennifer, that this is one of those things that people have heard about, limiting your light at night, but they may not realize really how big of a difference it can make. And So the newer recommendations that just came out in March is to have 10 lux or less for 3 hours before bedtime. So that's really quite dim, but that's what our physiology is designed for. And just to give a reference here, 1 lux is the amount of light given by one candle flame from 3 feet away. So 10 lux is really a pretty low light, but having that low light makes a huge difference. You can either turn the lights down in your home, or you can use blue blocking glasses like these. Looking at you now in my office here, everything is kind of reddish yellow hued. And research studies have shown for people who have insomnia that wearing these for 2 hours before bed, even just for a week, actually improves their sleep.
And I've experienced that firsthand when I go camping. I love camping and I always find that I sleep so much better when I'm away. And it is that the only, well, okay, we do have some torches, but it's really just the fire, the light from the fire. And it's pretty dark. Another benefit is you get to see the stars, which is pretty beautiful. Okay, so we've got red light glasses when we're at home, but was interesting for you to hear about the research talking about 3 hours before bed. I know many of us start thinking about powering down or winding down, say the hour or so before bed. But from what you're saying, we really need to be looking at doing that sooner. So maybe even 2 or 3 hours before we go to bed.
Right. And I think that that is a real challenge for people. We often don't have 2 or 3 hours to wind down. But, circling back around to your camping experience, probably when you're camping, you do have that long, right? Between the time that the sun goes down and you start the fire until you're heading to bed is probably a little bit longer wind down time than you have easily at home in your regular routine. And it's kind of fun. There have been studies looking at people when they're camping, specifically their melatonin levels and their sleep. And even 2 nights of camping, people find that they're sleeping better. So you're not alone with that experience. Um, one one hack that I like people to use is to set a timer on your phone as your wind down alarm. And so the alarm goes off an hour or so before bed. You gather up all the electronics in the home, dock them in a neutral room like the kitchen or living room, and then turn down the lights, turn down the temperature, change into your cozy sleepwear, and just really switch into I'm off duty, I'm getting ready to sleep.
So once you've done that, what would you do after? So your alarm's gone off an hour beforehand. You've collected your devices. I guess you don't turn the TV on then. Like that was probably the worst thing you could do, bringing up all the blue lights. What do you recommend that we do for that hour before bed?
I think doing something that's really restful and enjoyable and kind of low key, snuggling up with your loved ones or your pets and just chit chatting can be nice, not, any heavy discussion or decisions being made, but just some friendly chat, talking on the phone with a friend, listening to an audiobook or music, taking a bath or a shower. You could even really do an Epsom salt bath or an Epsom salt bath with lavender, something that's really going to help you transition into a more parasympathetic state, ready to sleep. Doing some crafts, not something you're rushing to get done as a gift, but just the enjoyment of a little creativity can be nice. Playing cards or a game with the family, just something restful like that.
Okay. So in my household, we love backgammon. So quite often we would have a game of backgammon, and the conversation that starts when you're just having a fun game. I love the Epsom salt bath idea. Just putting in that extra magnesium into the body is another way to also help go to sleep. Last week, we had Justine Thompson on the podcast, and she specializes in yoga for menopause. And one of
Mm.
her suggestions was to put your legs up a wall, try to shimmy your bottom in as close as you can, to open up your arms, and to just lay there for however long is comfortable for you. If it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, focusing on your breath and maybe even playing some beautiful music, just trying to reduce your stress hormones and relax and get ready for bed. But you're going to make sure the lights are off or the lights are on dim after
Right,
what you've
right.
discussed
There is
today.
definitely some good information data showing that yoga improves total sleep time, and so does Tai Chi. If people want to move a little bit more than the pose that you're describing, that may also help their sleep. And, one of the things that I wish more people knew is that our melatonin levels are important not only for our sleep and our circadian rhythm, but they're important for our whole body health. And if you're not sleeping well, if you don't have high melatonin levels at night, it's affecting your health at a cellular level because that melatonin does have a role in every cell of our body. And it's a powerful antioxidant, anti inflammatory. We need the actions of melatonin. And when you look at the camping studies, their melatonin is secreted for longer than it is when we're in that electric light environment.
You're making me want to schedule a holiday. Camping, here I come. Yeah, so I'm lucky being here in Australia at the moment. We're moving into summer and peak camping season, so good excuse for me to head back outside. When
Right.
it when it comes to the bedroom, is there anything we should do to the bedroom to help set the scene for a good night's sleep?
I love this question because I love to empower people to really do a bedroom review and make it as ideal a sleep place as possible. And I think this is someplace that, lots of people could make a little bit of improvement, and that little bit of improvement is going to result in better sleep night after night. So you want your bedroom to be cool at night, ideally cooler than 65. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is in Celsius.
That's all right. I can look it up and put in the show notes.
um, so cooler than 65 degrees, you want it to be really dark. If there's enough light that you can put your hand out at arm's length and see your fingers wiggling, that's enough to suppress your melatonin. So you really want your bedroom to be dark. For safety, of course, we're going to need to have a light. So I prefer people to have a light on their bedstand that they can turn on if they wake up in the night and they have to get up. But for regular sleep, you don't want to have a night light on. You don't want to have the hall light or a closet light on. And then to make your bed comfortable for you, people ask me all the time about mattresses. Is there a specific mattress? And I think it really is important just to get what's comfortable for you. And this can be a challenge because you may have bed partners. One prefers firm, one prefers soft, and you may need to do some adjustments there. Sleeping on your side, not your back, is better for sleep breathing. So you do want to cultivate the habit of sleeping on your side as best you can. And then not having any work areas in the bedroom if you can in any way avoid it. And sometimes we are living in smaller spaces and we need to have, many activities, wakeful activities and whatnot in the sleep room. So if that's the case, having some kind of decorative cloth that you can put over a desk or something when you're done with it for the day, or a folding screen that goes in front of those wakeful workstations can be really helpful. Just to have a visual cue that I'm off duty. It is time to sleep.
Well, what I wanted to mention when you were talking about sleeping on your side, my sister's a chiropractor and she would 100% support you in that, saying not only is it good for a better night's sleep, it's also good for your posture and for your structure and the health of your neck.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're sleeping on your side, I think the piece that people need to also know is to get pillows that are the right size. If you're sleeping on your side, you probably want to have a pillow between your knees to support your lower back and having neutral alignment with your spine. And then you want to have a pillow for your head that's the right distance. And the right distance is this external shoulder to my ear when my neck is in a neutral position. If you have a bigger pillow, the neck is cranked one way. If it's too narrow, your neck is cranked the other way. And just get those pillows so that if somebody looks at you from behind when you're sleeping, it would just be your spine would just be at a level without any bends in it. And sometimes people also can find it's helpful to have a pillow above or underneath their upper arm so that their shoulders don't get squished in. Um, so
So
yeah, that can make a big difference.
another tip I've heard my sister say is if you sleep with your hands underneath your pillow's not firm enough or it's not big enough that you're actually trying to prop your pillow up with your hands. So then in that case, you're better to get a wider, more supportive pillow so you're not sleeping on your hands overnight.
That's a great tip.
Mm. Something else that's been an issue in Australia, and I'm sure it's an issue in other parts of the world too, is mold. And the amount of rain that we've had and the amount of mold, I certainly have seen a correlation in my clinic with just mold in the bedroom and night sweats, poor sleeping, insomnia in general.
Right. I'm glad you're bringing that up. It's mold. We also have to be concerned about dust mites.
Yes.
the recommendation for replacing your bedding actually is to replace your bed every 10 years, and your pillow should be replaced every 2 years, because dust mites can get so deeply into it that it's just impossible to get them out. And people can have almost can have a histamine reaction to the dust and the dust mites. Histamine, we think about in terms of antihistamines that people may get over the counter to help them sleep. And it's because histamine is an alerting neurotransmitter and it helps us be awake. So we do not want to have a histamine reaction to our bedroom. And, keeping it clean. I like people to, um, wash their sheets and pillowcases once weekly in hot water. And then all other fabric in the room, from the dust ruffle on the bed, the mattress pad, all the bedding, curtains, if they have a runner on their dresser, any of that fabric, wash it if it's possible every 3 months. And a great tip is to put it in your calendar. Just 3 months, every 3 months, put it in that you're going to wash all that bedding, clean underneath the furniture at that time. If you've got mold, sometimes people can have condensation on their windows and mold can build up on the windows. So maybe you want to be sure to wipe the windows and the window frames, and then clean underneath the bed and underneath the dressers and all furniture at that time. And then pillows, you can use a permanent marker and put right on the pillow the year that it needs to be replaced. And so you're replacing that every 2 years. Really important.
Do you recommend sunning the mattress?
If you have the opportunity to do so, I think that's a great idea. And the pillows, putting them outside in the morning on a bright sunshiny day and leaving them out there all day in the sun, flipping the mattress and the pillows halfway through the day. Love
Perfect.
that.
So in my case, I'm in an apartment, but I've got massive big windows on either side of the bedroom, so I can push the mattress in between the bed and the wall to get a bit of sun, and then flip it on the other side. So you don't have to necessarily drag it out if you've got windows and sunshine and fresh air that will come and hit the mattress.
Yeah,
Because 10 years
perfect.
is a long time to be sitting on your bed. To actually get it up and get it moving and get some sunlight on it, I think is a good way to, not to extend the life. I don't want you having it for longer than 10 years, but just to have a better quality mattress come that 6, 7, 8, 9 year mark before you replace it. Do you recommend any of the cooling pads or cooling sheets? Because the temperature does play a role with sleep.
It really does take a role in our sleep. And I think that in 5 years or so, my prediction is that we will have a standard recommendation to turn down the heat an hour before bed, in addition to turning down the lights, because that's what happens in the natural environment, right? And that's another cue to our body. Okay, it's time to start switching into sleep physiology. So I do think it is important to keep cool. You want the ambient temperature in your home and your bedroom to cool down. And then I like people to sleep with natural fibers for their sheets.
Like
The
bamboo or
synthetic
cotton?
fibers can just not breathe. Yes, cotton, or if you have a mattress topper that's synthetic, if you can put some kind of wool cover on that mattress topper, just so you have natural fibers against, closer to your body. And then rather than having one thick duvet, I prefer people to have multiple thin blankets. And so you can more easily adjust the temperature, as you're going through the night. And, if you're someone who finds that you're cold when you get into bed, but you are often too hot in the middle of the night, you can do things like use a hot water bottle or one of those microwave rice heating pads, and put it in the bed for 5 minutes while you're brushing your teeth, 10 minutes, and then get into bed when it's warm and comfortable and move that out of the bed. And then, yes, if you need to get one of these cooling devices for your bed, that I think that's a good way to go. I liked people to do the easier, less expensive things first and work your way up to the more expensive interventions, but you definitely do not want to be waking up too hot.
Mm. But one thing I do like about the cooling mats, if somebody wants to consider one, is if you've got a partner that sleeps the opposite to you. If you're a hot sleeper and they're a cold sleeper or vice versa, you can optimize the bed. So it's the same mattress, the same bed, but you've got different temperatures on different sides. But even your hot water bottle idea will do that. You just put the hot water bottle on your side and then kick it out when you go to bed. That's a really wonderful tip.
Right.
What about timing? Does it make any difference if you're a night owl and you go to bed late versus going to bed earlier, or is it an individual factor?
The most important piece, Dr. Jennifer, is that people go to bed at the time that is right for them. And I think about it in terms of living in rhythm with your natural body clock. And sometimes I think there's a little bit of judgment or shaming that happens where people are told, oh, if you wouldn't be such a night owl if you just got off your phone or something. And I really want people to remember that our phase preference, whether we're a morning person or a night person or in between, is really something that we're just, it's a characteristic that we're born with. It's like eye color, right? It wouldn't make any sense to be judgmental about people's eye color. It makes equal sense, or poor sense, I should say, with being judgmental about whether you're a night owl or a morning person. So the first step is to, as much you can, as best you can, adjust your lifestyle to honor your natural preference. And I realize that's not always possible depending on your lifestyle commitments and whatnot. So then you can um, make sure that you get light in the morning. Actually, will make a really big difference in waking you up and helping you be ready to go to sleep a little bit earlier than you naturally would. That is kind of the primary intervention that you'd want to do. And there are sleep specialists and behavioral sleep specialists who can help you with a plan if you're a night owl and you need help getting to sleep earlier than you do and waking up earlier than you naturally would.
Are there lifestyle things that make a difference? So, thinking about exercise, I've always been told it's better to exercise in the morning, especially if it's going to be a high intensity or a lot of cardiovascular work, because sometimes it can take a while to calm down, to get the adrenaline out of the system before it's time for bed. Do you agree with that?
I do. And yeah, those high intensity workouts, definitely do those earlier in the day. The role that exercise can have closer to your sleep period is if you have restless leg syndrome, exercising in the hour or two before bed by doing a gentle walk around your neighborhood can actually help calm your legs. The other reason I like not evening exercise per se, but evening strolls is to just have that parasympathetic cue of the rhythmic, gentle walking. And the mental distraction of kind of looking around the neighborhood, see what's going on, see people's cute dogs and whatnot, and get that sunlight that is switching into sunset and cueing, okay, this is the end of the day.
And there's so many other benefits like lowering your insulin, balancing your blood sugar levels, helping with digestion. I think that's something most people should put an alarm on their phone for, right? Evening walk.
Right.
But
It can be a
also,
really lovely ritual.
yeah, and also depending on who you do it with, like, do you take a loved one with you for that walk? And it's a time to have a chat, to discuss the day, to bond. I really like that.
Right.
Um, just while we're talking about exercise, I just wanted to also, like you mentioned before, that yoga can help with sleep. Any of that sort of gentle stretching, strolling, that kind of activity, I think, should be encouraged at nighttime.
I agree.
Have we missed anything? We've spoke about so many different aspects. Is there anything that I forgot to ask you about?
Well, I think particularly for women as they go through midlife, I would like to highlight that we do see an increase in sleep disorders that need to be treated. One of the main disorders that we see increase significantly in women as they go through menopause is actually obstructive sleep apnea.
Mm.
You may, I think, often people have the perception that obstructive sleep apnea is much more common in men. And that's true if you look at early life. But the estrogen is actually protective of the tone of the airway. So as women become menopausal and their estrogen levels are not as high, we actually start seeing the equivalent prevalence of obstructive sleep apnea in women age 60 as we see in men age 60. So what may have been just some soft snoring in your 30s could be sleep apnea as you get older. And we know that untreated obstructive sleep apnea is associated with increased cardiovascular risk, increased stroke risk. So if anybody ever says, you snore so loudly, I need to leave the room, or you are pausing, your breath is pausing in the middle of the night, do follow up and get assessed for obstructive sleep apnea.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. I see that all the time in my clinic. And another correlation that I see is with night sweats. So, women complaining that they can't sleep through the night anymore, they're rather waking up multiple times, or that they're waking up having hot flushes. And I have seen some research linking hot flushes and sleep apnea together. So, whenever someone comes in and says, "Oh, I'm not sleeping well," do you snore? Have you been tested for sleep apnea? It is one of the first things that I suggest. And it's scary how few women have actually had a sleep apnea test.
Right. And even in men, obstructive sleep apnea episodes are associated with hot flushes and sweating, particularly around the neck and the head. And the reason here is because as you're having an apneic pause, your airway is collapsed, so no air can get through your airway, but your diaphragm is still pumping. Your brain is still monitoring your blood oxygen level. And so your diaphragm can start pumping even harder, trying to get some air through this closed airway. And it's that extra effort of breathing that causes that sensation of heat and the sweating and flushing that comes with sleep apnea.
Wow. Thank you for explaining that. I put the links together, but I didn't understand the mechanisms behind it. So thank you for that. You have been a wealth of knowledge today. If anyone listening today has decided that they'd like to reach out to you, how can they do that?
So I'm here in the United States. My website is skilledsleeper.com, and I have some online courses that you can take and kind of guide you through the 7 main steps to building a sleep healthy lifestyle and getting that sleep you need. So skilledsleeper.com, and you can also find me on Instagram. I've been having a lot of fun on Instagram, just sharing a tip a day and interacting with people.
Well, I've definitely seen your Instagram posts, so they have been very educational. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for your time today.
Great, thanks. I'm so glad to be here because sleep is just so foundational. Each and every one of us needs healthy sleep. It powers our day, and just glad to help.
Yeah, it really is a pivotal point, isn't it? If you sleep well, you live well. If you don't sleep well, you don't have any energy, you're more prone to headaches, you're more prone to blood sugar imbalances, and it sort of just cycles downwards from there.
Right.
Yes,
Well, thank you so much.
you're welcome. Bye.
Bye bye.